International state racketeering. Russia's defense ministry has lashed out at US plans to secure Syrian oil fields now. Then Washington confirmed earlier, indeed, it is going to maintain its presence in Syria to protect oil production from Islamic State terrorists after days of speculation about what it was going to do.
The United States will maintain a reduced presence in Syria to deny ISIS access to oil revenue as we reposition for the next phase of the Defeat ISIS campaign.
All natural resources situated in Syria do not belong to ISIL terrorists, and especially not to the United States either. All the resources belong to the Syrian Arab Republic, with no exception. Nowhere in US law or in international law is there any legal way for the United States forces to protect Syrian natural resources from Syria and its people. That's what Washington is currently doing, capturing and seizing oil fields in Syria. In plain words, that is international state racketeering.
But in a series of tweets that seem to contradict that statement, Donald Trump has claimed that ISIL is not a threat anymore. And that, too, comes despite the fears of the Kurds and the international broader community about the security of facilities holding the terrorists. The decision, too, marks a reversal, then, of President Trump's plan to withdraw all US troops from northern Syria that opened the door for that recent Turkish offensive. The order prompted a furious bipartisan backlash in Washington, where it was widely perceived as a betrayal of America's Kurdish allies who were instrumental in defeating ISIL. International affairs commentator Jonathan Steele spoke to us. He said oil was always the US goal in Syria.
The phrase one comes to mind is, it's the oil, stupid. You remember that argument was used about the reasons behind the invasion of Iraq in 2003. It's the oil. That wasn't in fact true, although it was an element of the reasons for going in. There were much bigger reasons for going into Iraq. But going into this area of Syria is clearly about the oil. And as I say, putting pressure on the government in Damascus to try and make concessions. It's not surprising, perhaps, that the Kurds have welcomed it, as you quoted one of their generals earlier in the program, because they want to keep the Americans in play. And so even if it means that they're not facing the Turks, at least they're somewhere in Syria. And I suppose the Kurdish forces hope that maybe they can reverse Trump's policy totally and get the Americans right back into northeastern Syria.
Meanwhile, the Russian army, in conjunction with Syrian government troops, are conducting joint patrols in the area in the Turkish incursion zone in northeast Syria. Joint patrols were dispatched to the buffer zone to ensure the ceasefire holds between Turkey and the Kurds. We spoke to one of the Kurdish political leaders. She told us the group's always ready to negotiate with the Russian side and that the resolution of the Syrian crisis remains the top priority for the Kurds.
Syrian democratic forces were created to defend the citizens living in the ISIL-populated region, which they battled for many years. The SDF protected the inhabitants of the region from any possible aggression. The Syrian democratic forces differ in their discipline and work according to their own rules, having a lot of experience battling terrorism. Considering that most SDF fighters are from northwest Syria and understanding their qualifications, it is possible to keep them in Syrian armed forces after the adoption of a new constitution for the country. At the moment, we are keeping in touch with Moscow. The dialogue is open. That does not mean that we strictly stand by or rely on the American position. Defending oil wells is of course very important for them not to end up in the wrong hands. Although the rights of the Syrian people remain the priority, the rights of different groups of people, the rights of the Kurdish people and other groups in Syrian society, a constitutional guarantee of those rights. But the resolution of Syrian crisis in a peaceful way remains the priority that requires our close attention.